Hope everyone's enjoying your meal. You can continue with that, but I'd like to start our keynote speaker presentation for the noon hour. The governor has heard me introduce him as many times as he probably wishes, and so when it came down to a choice between me and an attractive, very proficient attorney that just joined our group is going to do the introduction. So I'm going to introduce her. That's the pleasure I get. Teresa Foxley, who is on the stand with the governor and I might as well tell you that we have Val Hale, who you heard this morning, Justin Harding, the chief of staff for the governor, and Karen Gunn, who you'll hear from after the governor's remarks. So Teresa is the managing director of corporate recruitment and business services. As such, she's over the Ptac. She's also over the corporate recruitment and incentives, the rural Utah development, and the private activity bond authority. Her background most recently was with Ballard Spahr, a large local law firm with 14 offices nationwide. She's represented corporate clients in financial and contract matters. She's also recently been involved as a corporate counsel for a venture-funded company during the buyout and integration of the new company integrating with the company she was representing. Earlier in her career, she actually worked at GoEd and was a team member in the incentives program. She has an undergraduate degree from Utah State University and a JD from the S.J. Quinney Law School at the University of Utah. So I'm going to ask Teresa to introduce the governor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Fred, for the warm introduction, and it really is my pleasure today to introduce Governor Gary Richard Herbert, who, as I think you all know, wakes up every morning and he, along with his staff ask themselves, how can we improve prosperity for Utahns today? Governor Herbert has led Utah's recovery from the Great Recession to a position of national economic prominence. His unwavering focus on economic development includes attracting business and investment into the state, while, and maybe most importantly, helping homegrown businesses flourish. The governor is focused on 4 cornerstones to strengthen Utah's economy: education, economic development, energy, and self-determination. As a result, Utah has become a premier business destination for jobs and an unsurpassed quality of life. The governor is currently serving as the vice chair of the National Governors Association, and he will chair that organization in 2015 and 2016. I think that truly demonstrates how highly regarded Governor Herbert is among his peers in the other laboratories of democracy across the country. As Utah's 17th governor, Governor Herbert took the oath of office on August 11, 2009. Prior to becoming the state's chief executive, Governor Herbert served as lieutenant governor for 5 years, and in 1990, the governor was appointed to the Utah County Commission. He's truly led a life of public service. He and his wife, Jeanette, are the proud parents of 6 children and 15 grandchildren. So without further ado, Governor Gary Herbert.
Well, thank you, Teresa, and thanks to all of you. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I think I grasp the significance of this gathering. This is the 9th annual symposium that we've had. The Ptac program has been in existence for about 28 years. It's housed in GoEd, and it goes to the point of we believe in Utah how significantly important small business is, and how significantly important small business is to have a healthy economy. It's not news to anybody here that my #1 focus since I've been governor over these last 5 years has been to focus laser-like on making sure that our economy improves. That means empowerment of the private sector. That means empowering you people to be successful as you find niches in the marketplace to, in fact, create wealth, create jobs, economic opportunity for you and your employees and others. That ripple effect through our state's economy has been very encouraging. In fact, it really is one of the great success stories in the country today. As you know, last week our unemployment rate dropped down to 3.5% from the 8.5% it was when I first came into office. So thanks to you, it's working, to coin a phrase, and we're doing some really good stuff. Let me just also say to you that I know the old adage that the early bird gets the worm. I would say that, you know, being proactive adds to your potential for success. You folks here are proactive. You're actually engaged in trying to find better ways to do things, find new opportunities, certainly with government contracting, that your private enterprise, your private business can, in fact, be accommodated economically. I'm reminded of a phrase that came from our great President Abraham Lincoln, who said that if I had 5 hours to chop wood, the first hour I'd spend would be sharpening my axe. And I look at this symposium and this get-together really in that same vein. This is an opportunity for you to sharpen your axe, to learn maybe where better to chop and where the wood is that you can chop, and opportunities for you to have success. So I applaud your efforts and thank you for your attendance, and really believe you're going to have success from having been here. Let me also thank those who've organized it. Events like this don't just happen. It takes the work of many, and our GoEd office and our Ptac group of folks, and for their efforts. And particularly I want to recognize the sponsors who put up not only time but money to help us put this event on. Our gold sponsors, American Express and LSI Business Development, Inc. Our silver sponsors, Goldman Sachs, Salt Lake County, and Media One. And other sponsors, again, people that are here in the room that are doing so much to make this a successful event. Now let me just mention maybe 2 or 3 things that might be helpful today. You all recognize I've mentioned how important it is to me to have a successful economy. For me, it is the #1 focus. President Clinton, who I probably ideologically, politically would not agree with on a lot of things, did have it right when he said it's the economy, stupid. And I say it is the economy, and we're not stupid. We understand how important it is to have a healthy economy because of the impact it has on everything else the government's involved with that we, the people, think are important. If you think education is important, if we need to have ways to fund education, having a healthy economy certainly makes that easier. Try funding education when we're in a recession. I've gone through that. You have to cut a lot of money out of your budget. It's not a fun thing to do. You want to build roads? It's a lot easier if you've got a healthy economy. So you've got money, the ability to, in fact, sometimes bond and borrow for building and construction. We need to have long-term and have the ability to pay those bonds off because you have a revenue stream that comes from a healthy economy. Health and Human Services, those who are vulnerable, most vulnerable amongst our society that maybe are in poverty or underemployed, you have a hard time funding those programs if you don't have a healthy economy. So having a healthy economy really makes everything else kind of fall into place and do the things that we think government ought to be doing. And here in Utah, this growing economy is really providing us with opportunities to have great success that is becoming the envy of other parts of this country. The Wall Street Journal here recently named us the brightest star on the flag, and talking about all the accolades that we're receiving and the acknowledgement of the successes that are happening here in Utah. I was in Ohio just a couple of days ago and met with a governor from Mississippi who talked about, he says, you know, we look to Utah as a leader. We see great things taking place there in your economy and in other areas, and we see Utah emerging as really a leader in this country. That's a great thing. It brings accolades, but it also brings a little bit of pressure more responsibility for all of us to be the good example out there and show people how it's done. Well, I recognize that particularly when it comes to working with government, that sometimes is a challenge. It's a little difficult sometimes with government because of the bureaucracy and the bureaucrats, and they seem to be an unlimited number and growing. Believe me, I understand this. As you know, I'm in the process of negotiating a contract with the federal government and the Department of Health on what we call Healthy Utah, an alternative to Medicaid expansion designed to help those who need a little bit of government assistance when it comes to accessing health care. I've been working on this now for about a year, and it's not getting easier. I think we're getting close to the finish line. We'll probably have things wrapped up here in the next day or two. But I understand the challenge of having to negotiate with government, and particularly the federal government, and it's getting bigger. We in Utah are trying to make our government bureaucracy smaller and more efficient and more effective, but I don't see that same reciprocity coming out of Washington, D.C. So I recognize the challenge that you uniquely face in trying to get government contracts. Dale Daughton said this, who was a business manager expert in the private sector, said, "Bureaucracy gives birth to itself and then expects maternity benefits." It is a labyrinth of challenges out there, but fortunately for us, and the program we have here, we have a GPS to help us navigate through this challenge of the bureaucracy with government, the federal government, as well as helping with state government. We have 7 procurement technical assistance centers, Ptacs we've called them, and strategically placed throughout the state to help you and provide learning experiences and teaching, and so you can understand best how to access government contracts and give you the best chance to be successful. And it's important because there's a lot of money out there. And again, I am more of a small, limited government guy, but I recognize when we give government the responsibility to solve some problems, it's best done when they can take the taxpayers' dollars and contract with the private sector to help them solve those problems. We contract with the private sector to build roads in Utah. We don't have a government road system. We take the money and then contract with people like yourselves to build roads. Same with our college campuses and building buildings. So I think the opportunity to engage the private sector is a smart one. And there's money out there that's being spent in Utah alone with defense spending and other government contracts. In Utah alone, over $4 billion will be given in a year's time here in government contracts. You have opportunities to be a part of that $4 billion out there in providing service to your country and to the citizens of Utah. A few of the numbers that will help you understand, I think, the success of Ptac, and I know some of you already know this, but for those who are maybe new, Utah's program has been awarded the highest recognition available, a ranking of outstanding for the last 4 consecutive years. This past fiscal year, Utah businesses have won more than $700 million in government contracts, so just Utah businesses alone, $700 million. That translates to about 10,000 jobs, by the way, in the marketplace that's created because of you folks. And that's a significant impact on our economy and the quality of life that we have here in a very fast-growing state that needs to have ongoing expansion of jobs and job creation. I'm pleased to see that our latest numbers show that job creation in Utah is about 3.7%, almost double the national average. Again, pat yourselves on the back for what you're doing. Although we have a lot of construction-related contracts, it really is across the spectrum when it comes to the private sector and the opportunities that are out there. What makes Ptac so successful? 1, we've got good people running the program. 2, this is not their first trip around the block. This ain't their first rodeo. They really understand how the system works. And the expertise that they have, they're prepared to share with you and help you. We've got booths here and opportunities for you to interface and to network. But our folks here are here to make sure that you're successful. If you're successful, they're successful. If you're not successful, we'll be looking for some new people. And again, the why we're good at it is we've got good people that are running the show here. We meet with you 4 to 5 times a year with our prime contractors and our Ptac people to, again, make sure that you have ongoing expertise and understanding to help you make business decisions and understand how to access government contracts. It helps particularly those young, new, small businesses just starting out to give you a leg up. Our minority businesses, particularly our Hispanic businesses, which are growing quite phenomenally here in the state of Utah and other minority groups. It's a valuable assist as you're getting started to find your way towards financial success. Let me just conclude by saying that, again, we appreciate the Defense Department, and the government. 50% of the budget that comes to our Ptac program comes from the Department of Defense, which means they understand how important this program is. They would not be putting money into it if they did not understand the importance and the value that's being added here with our Ptac program, and how important they understand they can't be successful in their responsibilities at the Department of Defense without you, without business owners like yourselves that are providing goods and services that they need to acquire. So again, I just would encourage you to take full advantage, ask questions. We've got good people here to help you. You have issues. Val Hale, who's heading our Office of Economic Development, comes with a wealth of background and certainly understands networking as well as anybody, and can help us help you to help yourselves. So in conclusion, let me just say thank you. Not only just thanks for being here and participating in this program, I think it will help you, but thanks for being entrepreneurs. Not everybody has the moxie and the courage to get into the marketplace and say, I'm going to create a business. It's a challenge. It's not easy. You have to make payroll. You have to find a niche in the marketplace so your revenues exceed your expenses. That's a challenge in itself. You have to deal with sometimes what are viewed to be very nonsensical, counterproductive government regulations. I'm pleased that in Utah we've tried to streamline the process and eliminate unnecessary regulations that get in the way of your success. We would like to encourage the federal government to do that, but we have people here to help you, and you're willing to take on that challenge and fight for market share and profitability. It really is what made America great. I fear that we're forgetting the principle of free market competition and capitalism. We have people anymore that don't even want to use the word capitalism as if it's somehow a dirty word. But I'll just conclude by saying what has made America great is the business entrepreneur, from the farmer to the manufacturer, to those who work in any kind of widget making or providing services to their fellow man, and charge a fee with the understanding that I may make a profit. Profitability is a good thing. And what that's provided for this country since its inception is the wealthiest country in the history of this world, the most free country in the history of this world, the opportunities for people to, in fact, start at the lowest rung on the ladder and achieve success beyond their wildest dreams to the top echelons of the ladder. In Utah, we have the best upward mobility of any state in America. Why? Because we've not forgotten the principles of free market capitalism, which, by the way, provides the best goods and services for the most people at the lowest prices. It's a great system if we let it work, and so I congratulate you for your boldness, for your vision, for your courage, for getting into the marketplace, into the arena, and say, I've got something to offer. I hope you make a lot of money in doing that. Good luck, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
We're very appreciative of the governor for taking time out of his busy schedule to address you. We will excuse him at this time as he has other commitments and needs to be leaving here right now. So we thank him and appreciate him being here. So the next part of our program has to do with a featured speaker and group that represents the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses venture. Many of you have heard from the executive director of this program. Her name is Karen Gunn. Besides the fact that she's running a good part of the Salt Lake Community College, she's also tasked with running the program that Goldman Sachs has put together not only in Salt Lake but many cities across this great country, where they help finance, teach, and encourage small companies to do well and to do better. Karen's experience goes into providing services for the small businesses, such as the Small Business Development Centers, Business Resource Centers, and is a very welcome participant with Ptac in the programs that we share the opportunity to speak to you and others as we gather together. So I'm going to let Karen introduce those that she brought with her, and when we're finished with this, we will be going to the trade show again, after which the second breakout session. So Karen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Fred. As I introduce the last part of our lunch presentation today, I'm going to ask Victoria Karpos, Jelena Petzinger, and Laura Thackeray to join me up here. They're my guests today from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. And in a moment, we'll share some of their experiences as small business owners. I would like to echo Governor Herbert's commendation to you all as the backbone of Utah business. Small business presents 83% of the state's economic growth each year. And nationally, it creates over 64% of all net new jobs in the country. It employs 40% of our high-tech sectors, and small business owners produce 13 times more patents per employee than large patenting firms. So give yourselves a round of applause for the tenacity and courage that you have each day to go out and contribute to the economy. I'd like to acknowledge some of our partners here today too. We have probably the most comprehensive portfolio at the college for small business. I have the great pleasure and honor to work with our Small Business Development Center networks, and Sherm Wilkinson, State Director, and his regional folks are here today, and our federal partner, the Small Business Administration. We have an integrated, institutionally funded Business Resource Center. Our team is here today to help with any acceleration needs that you have. Partners that live with us, like Ptac and Manufacturing Extension Partnership and the UMA. Mr. Todd Bingham, thank you so much for what you do to support our businesses. And then we have the program that we're highlighting today, and its sponsorship, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, and the folks that are with me today. So I couldn't ask for a better way to spend the day. I truly couldn't. And it gives me no greater pleasure and no greater honor than to be able to support the economic backbone of Utah through small business development and entrepreneurial activity. And so with that, a little bit of background on the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. Before we get into the panel itself, I see some of our current scholars, Johnny Hernandez. How many of our small business and our SBDC clients, in addition to 10,000 Small Businesses clients or Business Resource Center clients, how many of you are here in the audience today? If you are an SBDC client, a Business Resource Center client, or a 10,000 Small Businesses Scholar alum, will you stand up? Smokey Peck, how are you? Nice to see you, and thank you for using what we do. 10,000 Small Businesses is funded by the Goldman Sachs Foundation. It is not funded by the bank, and I always have to make that clear because I get in trouble if we just say Goldman Sachs. It is a $500 million investment in small business and entrepreneurial development within the United States. And for Utah statistics, we are entering our 5th cohort. We have graduated 139 scholars from the business. They become long-term impact clients for our SBDC. They may have come from our accelerators and incubators. They are referred by partners. So it is a testament to the strength of a program that is put together in an incredibly unique way, focused on world-class, targeted, intense, yes, business education for growth strategy for companies that are eager to grow. It provides one-on-one mentoring and coaching by practitioners of entrepreneurship and small business ownership, successful serial entrepreneurs many times, and it provides a distinct place for access to capital through our community funding partner, Mountain West Small Business Finance. So it is a really unique value proposition. And over 22 weeks in the program, our scholars learn how to create an actionable and bankable growth plan. So today, we are focused on contracting as part of that growth strategy. And I would like to introduce our guests, and I couldn't think of a better way to highlight women-owned business than in October, which is Women's Business Month. So thank you. Our program in Salt Lake City captures one of the largest percentages of women scholars in the country. Over 50% of our cohorts are women-owned businesses. So you rock. You know, what can I say? Utah ranks number 7 in the country for women-owned business starts. And so Melinda Workman, I can see you out there. Thank you. And the Women's Business Center at Salt Lake Chamber for what you do to support women-owned businesses. Victoria Karpos, who is the owner of Statues.com, is with us today. She is an alumni from Cohort 1. In fact, they all are. Statues.com. You may not know who they are, but you've seen them. How many of you have been to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C.? Victoria's statues are there. They are the foundry that makes the molds for all of the little presidential statues and what else? Malls, anything. So a Utah company supporting business. Jelena Petzinger of Final Touch Painting is with us as well, Cohort 1 alumni. And Laura Thackeray of BMPI, I always say this wrong, Laura, so correct me, Incorporated. All of these women have used contracting and have successfully grown their companies through the resources of Ptac or looked at contracted, and they've done it in diverse ways. So we're going to start with each of them being able to give you a 3-minute overview of their company, how they got into contracting, why it's important, and then have them answer some questions that might help you on your road to government contracting. So I'm going to start first with Victoria.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you, Karen, for allowing us to be here on the panel and inviting us. Thank you very much for that. As far as contracting role in our company, for us, it's opened up opportunities, partnerships, just like the previous speaker had addressed. And when he said that to me, it just validated the idea that we're reaching our goal. We're doing exactly what he said he's going to do, or what we're going to do. There's a lot of new things I have to learn, and I'm hoping with the Ptac, I'll have the opportunity through organizations that help, teach you the tools to do it more successfully. Besides the partnerships, it adds to our portfolio because our business is so visual, and we're creating sculptures that not everybody in this room needs and not all of the government agencies need. But when there is that need, it becomes very visual, very personal, and that customer becomes a long life relationship with us. And so it builds a portfolio for us to be able to say, we did this project for this entity, we did this project for this organization, And it becomes a value to our business to have that background and that in our portfolio.
Thank you. Jelena.
I am also in construction. I run a commercial painting contractor, but my business actually started with contracting at Hill Air Force Base. And it wasn't even at Hill in Layton. It was out in the Nevada desert in the missile test range. That's where I got my start. And so that's kind of where the company came from, was contracting. I ended up applying for the Goldman Sachs program because we were kind of spread a little thin, and we had our hands in 50 million different things, and I felt like we really didn't have a focus and we're not growing. And so that was one of the reasons why I applied for the program, and it gave me that opportunity to step back and take a good big picture look at the company and where I really wanted to see it go. And by putting that growth plan together and fine-tuning our direction, we have achieved 400% growth in the last year since graduating from the program. And I actually feel less busy because we are focused, we have a plan, we know exactly where we're going and where we want to be. And I've utilized the resources here in a lot of what we do. Ptac has been a huge help on big RFPs for government contracts, as well as LSI, which they have a booth here. They have helped with proposal creation. That's the part that can get you can get bogged down in because there's so many requirements for government contracting, but the resources are here to help you, and they do an amazing job. Make sure that you don't miss anything, that all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, and you can move forward and grow.
Thank you, Jelena. Laura?
I own Budrich Plumbing, Inc., and through the Goldman Sachs class, I changed it to BRPI Mechanical so that people would take us more seriously, because when we bought the business 17 years ago, we did mostly residential work. That's what Budrich did, and my husband's experience was in commercial, so we switched over through Goldman Sachs to BRPI Mechanical, which we do commercial industrial plumbing, medical gas, and equipment. We're all about private contracting, and part of my growth plan was to expand our business into government entities, and we grew probably around 300%. Our largest job has been 96,000 square foot building down to placing a flush valve in a building. The challenges we face through this is through monies. You've got to have that money to cover that job until that general pays you, and part of that I learned through Goldman Sachs. I looked at my balance sheet, but I really didn't understand it, and that I really learned through Goldman Sachs. The part of that growth plan gave me the confidence because I have no college education. I graduated from high school. I've been married to my husband for 40 years. We work together, and I am a woman that is out in the forefront, and that is the biggest challenge I have, is having businesses take you serious, because there are so many women-owned business that you never see the woman. And I'd have to say that's a big challenge, is having them take you serious. And the nugget that I send out is, it is free. And if they can teach this old dog new lessons, they can teach anyone.
Not an old dog, Laura.
I am.
You're a grand woman. So, yeah. Laura mentioned a nugget that she'd learned out of that. And so one of the things I wanted to ask the panel, and I'll leave it open for Jelena and Vicki to fill in, is, a challenge that they saw in growing their company through contracting and using the resources that you have available effectively, and how they overcame that. What was it about the program that helped them overcome that challenge?
For me, it's just maintaining consistency and always being able to, making sure I follow up, because you get to start on a project, everything looks great in the beginning, and then you get into all these technical difficulties. You don't know how to answer questions, you don't know where to approach, and so just maintaining that consistency in the and follow through. That's a challenge. Because our business is so multi-leveled, we go from retail to wholesale to custom to procurement. There's so many different divisions, and again, being a business owner who wears many hats in your own business, you have many responsibilities, so following up has always been a challenge. But if you just stay focused, that's just what I have to maintain, is when I start a project, if I start writing something, I just have to stick to it until the very end. And that's been a challenge that I've learned over time. 25 years in this business that we've been doing, I've just learned to be patient. So when I was 21 and 25, there was a need to do everything fast, and I can do it all now. But now that I'm 35, I could do things a little bit slower. And that's been one of my challenges.
Thank you. Jelena.
In contracting, access to capital can be a big challenge. And luckily, I had already had those well-established banking relationships and a line of credit. But as I look at the workload that we've taken on this year, if that had not been in place, we would not have been able to make it. There's just no way. You're so far out in payment in a lot of cases. A lot of the government jobs, though, do have a small business stipulation in their contracts where they guarantee payment within 15 days, and I've found that to be true, and it has been a huge help. So access to capital, and Goldman Sachs, like she said, they've got a partnership with Mountain West Small Business. If you want to grow, you need to have access to that capital, and they have great connections for that.
Thank you. And the last thing I would ask you maybe to think about and just throw out in 30 seconds is, as people get into contracting or build their businesses into contracting, what is the one thing you would say to them to remember above all else?
Of all?
The most important thing to remember as you get into contracting.
I'll just have to go back to what I said before, which was being consistent. I like what the previous presenter was talking about, having relationships, nurturing those relationships, I think is the key element, and getting out there and actually speaking to people I think is what the success is in government contracting. You can't just fill out a piece of paper and send it out to the world through an internet and expect to hear back. You have to make the phone calls, you have to do the follow-up, and speak to people and reach out to people you know who can introduce you to other people.
Thank you. Laura or Jelena, either one of you.
Well, mine was, I always thought it was about the low bid. And Goldman Sachs kept pushing me, saying, it's about relationship. And I said, no, they just want the lowest price. And I learned in this last year, it's huge. Relationships are huge.
So a ditto on building relationships. Jelena.
Yeah, I'm gonna second or third that, I guess. The networking opportunities that Goldman Sachs, the Small Business Association, USDC, all of these organizations that are here that provide these networking opportunities, give you the opportunity to build those relationships and foster those relationships. We've found that if we can bug someone enough in an appropriate way and get our foot in the door, we can prove ourselves and stay, and they'll keep using you, and we get repeat business, and that's when life starts to get easier.
Thank you. In closing, I would like to thank these three women for being with me today and sharing their perspectives on contracting and their experiences as small business owners in our program. So a round of applause. Thank you, ladies. And I want to circle back to Governor Herbert's comments on the dollar amount projected this year. $700 million will go out in Utah contracting this year. Correct, Johnny? Spent. I want to make that number right. Think about how that impacts our supply chain and what you contribute to that. You or someone you know involved with your business is going to be the beneficiary of the Grow Your Own philosophy in Utah. So thank you. Best of luck in your contracting endeavors. If Salt Lake Community College can serve you in any way through our small business portfolio at Miller Campus, please visit the back, and we are taking applications for the early 2015 cohorts for Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses, and our team is there to help you. So to our partners again, thank you, and to the Governor's Office of Economic Development, thank you.
So as a token of our appreciation, we have a small gift for each of the panelists and for Karen.
Oh, thank you.
You might not guess it, but the gifts were made by a Ptac client, so we try to keep it in-house. At this time now, we go back to the trade show, and then check your program for the second breakout sessions, which will conclude the activities here today. We encourage you to visit the booth, exchange business cards, and foster new networking relationships. Thank you for coming, and I hope you've enjoyed being here.